Hello and welcome to the Under Center podcast. I'm your host, Darwin, and I'm joined as always by Jake Woolhead. Jake, how are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. Living the dream, except for having to watch the Giants of this past Sunday. But I've already drank my way out of that hole, so we're doing okay.
That's a regular occurrence now. You think you'd be used to it.
Yep, my kidney has taken a beating over the years, all right.
We are delighted to actually welcome back as well Dan Reardon, who was there with us on our Tuesday show. Dan, welcome back.
Hey, how's it going? Nice to talk again.
I know, right? You're getting so used to him. Are you trying to kick Fiona out of the show?
Me and Fiona have always had a bit of a rivalry, but he's a vicious little tyke, that guy. I couldn't take
it. And we are here for our Thursday night football preview show. We are looking ahead to the Chargers welcoming the Chiefs in this AFC West divisional matchup. And we are delighted to welcome from Sports Illustrated Fernando Ramirez to talk a bit about the Chargers and this game. Fernando, it's great to speak to you. How are you?
Hey, thank you guys for having me on. Jake, you're Irish, though. Like, doesn't your liver take a beating regardless?
Yeah, every week, but particularly hard on a Sunday after watching a Giants game. My week is a nice week for me.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on. This is fun. I'm excited to speak to people across the pond. So this is going to be awesome. It's incredible to see that football is really expanded and it's literally all over the world. So it's a lot of fun to know that people are so interested in it.
Yeah, and we spoke a little bit off air before we started the interview, and we found out that you've actually been to Ireland before.
Yes, I have. Belfast, Dublin. I went after I graduated from college with my family, and it was incredible. I mean, we saw so many different sites. I mean, everywhere I saw water, I'm like, oh, this is where they filmed Game of Thrones. No, it was right here. Like, I'm just trying to piece it together where they did all that. Fish and chips, incredible. I literally had it the whole time I was there. Visiting pubs was like the funnest part. They had live bands, and obviously sometimes I couldn't understand what they were singing, but I'm like, hey, this is awesome. I love jamming out to it. So, and like I said, I think I told you guys, we did a taxi tour of Belfast, and just to know the history of everything that happened in that city and with everything that happened there, I mean, it was incredible. So I learned a lot when I was in Ireland, and like I told you guys, I definitely want to go back and go visit again, just because I fell in love with the whole country. It was amazing.
Yeah, for sure. Those black cab tours up in Belfast are really, really good and really informative. I've been on them myself, and you kind of feel a little uneasy when you go from one side to the other. So from the Catholic side to the Protestant side, you have to. It does get a little uneasy.
Real fast. I don't know if you guys watch WWE, but like Finley, he said that a wrestler called Finley. He said he grew up in Belfast, and I'm like, wow, like for him to grow up there, like you have to be like a tough SOB to grow up in Belfast. So now I know, like anybody that says, oh, I'm from Belfast, I'm like, dude, I ain't messing with you. Like you are a tough SOB, so I ain't doing it. So just FYI, I have great respect for everything that happened in that city.
Yeah, well, that's it. When you come back over, you're going to have to give us a shout, and we'll bring you on a tour of the proper best Guinnesses that you can have around the city.
I love it. I definitely will.
Before we actually get into looking ahead to the game, I must mention that this week's shows are brought to you by Horan Estates. Horan Estates, nationwide estate agents with 2 locations in Dublin and Galway. They are the experts to use to ensure you get the best possible results in the sale or renting of any property. Head to their website, horanestates.ie, to view their properties or to make an inquiry about selling your own property. Thank you again to Horan Estates for sponsoring the shows this week. And of course, we are still running our competition with Horan Estates for a chance for you, I should say, to win an NFL jersey of your choice. All you have to do is go to our social channels at UnderCenterPod on Twitter or at UnderCenterPod on Instagram. You'll see the post there about the jersey. To enter it, just reshare it, tag 3 friends, make sure you're following both pages, and you're in with a shout to win it. We'll announce the winner next week, so it'll be nice just in time for Christmas to know you have an NFL jersey on the way. But Fernando, let's get into the game on Thursday. The Chargers second in the AFC East, the Chiefs first in the or should I say West, not East, West. First in the division. The last time they met, of course, was earlier on this year. LA coming out on top by 30 points to 24 in a game that it was surprising, but it was one of those games that the Chiefs had a lot of their early season struggles in.
Yeah, but at the same time, just the way the Chargers were kind of able to take it to them was interesting. I think the Chiefs committed 4 turnovers, and the Chargers were all over those turnovers, and it was a pretty good back and forth. I mean, I remember I was at the game, and when the Chargers jumped out to that big lead, I'm like, oh, they're gonna do something. Here it goes. Like, I've been around the organization since 2013, so I've kind of seen this happen. And with Brandon Staley, it feels a little bit different. I know they're 8-5. I know they've lost terrible games to the Broncos, to the Vikings, but it does feel a little bit different when they have a lead now. They're able to finish it off. They're able to finish games, and they weren't doing that with Anthony Lynn. They weren't doing that with Mike McCoy. They sometimes did it with North Turner, but it was a little bit of a struggle. But now with Brandon Staley, they're finishing these games off. They're playing good football. I know that the defense has struggled this year, but they've really kind of turned a corner as of late. They really took it to Cincinnati, and I know Cincinnati was able to score a couple of points, but those literally, I mean, I think they scored 22 points. Out of those 22, 14 came off of Austin Eckler fumbles. So if the Chargers would have played a perfect game and no turnovers, they might have been able to really shut out the Cincinnati Bengals. So the last 2 games, I've been very impressed with their defense. But now here comes the bigger test. So, that first matchup was interesting. But I think the biggest thing about these 2 teams is you see Patrick Mahomes versus Justin Herbert. And that's the thing. In their first game last year, obviously Patrick won the game. The Charger, I mean, obviously Justin came out. He surprised everybody. Nobody really knew what to expect of him. Comes out, kind of puts it on the Chiefs, has a bad turnover that kind of changes the momentum of the game. But he's learned a lot. This year, he really has grown a lot. He's poised. He's not making those terrible mistakes. He really has become an all-around quarterback, and he's showing the different ways that he can win games, whether it's with his legs, with his arm. I mean, you saw that pass against the Giants last week where Jalen Guyton splits the safeties. Jake, my bad. And he's able to put it right in the breadbasket while getting hit. I mean, there's not a lot of quarterbacks that can do that. But it's just all around. This game just – and Joey Bosa said it on Monday. It feels like a playoff game just because of all the implications that are around it. It feels like it's for the division. It feels like it's one of those games where it's a bigger than what it really. I mean, it's just a big matchup between 2 teams that look like they're going to make the playoffs and look like they could make some noise in the playoffs if both make it at the end of the season.
Fernando, go on there. Go.
No, sorry, Jake. Go ahead.
Fernando, I just wanted to ask you a question about Darwin James. Obviously, he missed the game there on Sunday against the Giants with a hamstring injury. And coming into the game, obviously, you need Darwin James, or you'd like to have him, because there's probably a little bit of a difference between Mike Glennon and Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, just a slight one though. But yeah, no, I feel like, and the Chargers won't say this, but I feel like that was kind of a reason why they sat him. Maybe he just felt a little. So Brandon Staley said he felt a little sore coming in on Saturday. So they decided, you know what? Let's not even try and get him to play. Let's just sit him. I feel like that kind of had a little bit to do with the game on Thursday, and Brandon thought the exact same thing. We need Derwin on the field. Derwin has actually done a really good job on Travis Kelce. He did a really good job on him in 2018. Did a really good job against him in the first game. I know the stats say that he had over 100 yards, but a lot of the game, Michael Davis was covering him. But when it was Derwin really held him down. So they do need Derwin in this game. If you don't have Derwin James, you lose your leader. You lose your best player on defense. Well, I mean, I guess him and Joey are a 1A, 1B. But you lose the heart and soul of your team. So I'm pretty sure I'm obviously, I'm not a psychic or anything, but I'm pretty sure Derwin does play this week just because he knows how big this game is, and he knows that defense needs him out there. Because while they did really well against Mike Glennon, like you said, it's Patrick Mahomes, and you can't take any chances against Patrick Mahomes. You have to go out there, and you need Derwin James, especially because of look at some of these games. I mean, he's come down with crucial interceptions. He's made game-turning game-changing plays. So they need Darwin James on Thursday if they're going to have a chance to win.
Fernando, just quickly on the old injury news, Austin Eckler, a lot of fantasy news around that. How long did it take him to get that boot off after that trainer taped it to about the ends of the earth?
Yeah, I really don't know how long it took him, but Brandon said that he felt like he said that Austin came in fine, that he was a little sore, but obviously, I mean, he's fine. They expect him to be ready to go on Thursday. Brandon said that he expects him to practice and everything. So I think Austin's going to play, and because this offense is so dependent on what he does. I mean, he scored 16 touchdowns this season. There's no really running back two behind him. Joshua Kelly, Justin Jackson, Larry Roundtree, they've all tried. They've mixed and matched. They've done everything they can, but none of them have even taken that next step forward, I guess, to try and be the number two. If you guys really look at it, I think Justin Herbert is second on the team in rush yards. So that's not really you never want unless he's named Lamar Jackson, you really don't want your quarterback or Kyler Murray. You don't want your quarterback being the second leading rusher, but it's just one of those things where the Chargers need Austin Eckler and they expect him to be there on Thursday.
Yeah, and some other injury news. Well, not maybe so much injury, but on the COVID list, we saw Keenan Allen missed a game last week due to it. Rashawn Slater was put on the COVID list yesterday. Is there any hope? Hopefully, Allen can be back for Thursday, but is there any hope maybe Slater can make it?
So the Chargers are hoping that he has 2 negative tests before Wednesday. So that would mean today he would need one and he'd need one tomorrow. They said it was a positive test, but I don't know. It'd be a miracle from God, I think, if Rashawn Slater plays, just because of that reason. The reason of you need 2 negative tests. I mean, if he's able to do it, then wow. But I just think it might be a little bit difficult, especially with the short week. I saw somebody on Twitter try and start a petition. They're like, hey, so the Chargers get Rashawn Slater back and the Chiefs get Chris Jones back. Let's switch the game and try and make it on Sunday. And I was like, hey, that's wishful thinking. But Brandon said he expects Keenan to come back this week, so Keenan Allen should be back on with the Chargers this week, and I'd be surprised if he doesn't play on Thursday, just because Wednesday's his 10th day, and on the 10th day they can activate him back. So I'm pretty sure Keenan will be back Thursday for the Chargers.
And do you think the backup to Rashawn Slater, I think it's Trey Pipkins, as far as I can remember, is do you think he can hold up?
I think the Chargers are going to need to use a lot of an extra lineman in. I think they're going to need to do help. They're going to need tight end help. Trey Pipkins hasn't been what the Chargers had hoped he would be at this point. I mean, they'll say that they think that he's done so well and that they feel like he's developed really well, but I haven't seen it. I mean, there's a reason why Storm Norton is out there right now at right tackle. There's a reason why they've used Storm Norton more than they have Trey Pipkins, because Trey hasn't developed. I mean, they got him out of Sioux Falls. You would think they would have loved for him to be one of those stories of, oh my God, the Chargers drafted him from I think it was a second division school, and he ended up being a left tackle in the NFL, and now he's all great. It just hasn't materialized like that. He's kind of slow with his feet. He falls for the, hey, I'm going outside, but then I spin back inside. Falls for that kind of stuff. So it's been a struggle with Trey Pipkins, and I just haven't seen the development that, and I'm sure the Chargers noticed that too. They haven't seen the development that they wanted from him. They even made him the extra lineman earlier in the season, that sixth one that they bring in. And at one point, he even lost that. So it hasn't been good. So it'll be interesting to see if Rashawn doesn't go, how the Chargers are going to do this. Would they move Storm Norton to left and then maybe put him at right? Or I really don't know. It's going to be interesting. But Brandon was throwing a lot of different combinations yesterday, and he said, we'll figure it out. We'll see. So it's probably a we'll see till we see what happens with Rashawn. Or it's a we'll see. We might have a plan under our sleeves that can work. I don't know what it is, but I don't know if they know an offensive lineman that's out there. Maybe they'll ask one of their old offensive linemen to come out of retirement and help them out. I don't know, but it should be interesting to see what 5 go out there starting on Thursday. I keep on wanting to say Sunday, Thursday.
I want to ask a bit about Justin Herbert, because he has continued on his great form from his rookie year. Normally, when you see in the second year, you see maybe a little bit of not regression, but maybe slows down.
What was the name?
Justin Herbert.
Justin Herbert. My bad. Okay, yeah. He's pretty important.
Yeah, I kind of
the hair alone is important.
Yeah, you had me nervous there for a second. You know, you would normally think in the second year that the progress would slow down a little bit, you know, as teams try to figure it out. But he seems to be just motoring on along, and of course, coming up against Patrick Mahomes this year, or again, sorry, I should say, and could Mahomes versus Herbert now be the rivalry in the NFL for the next 10 years?
I'll be honest, I think it's the new Brady versus Manning. I think, and the incredible part is they're in the same division, so you're going to get it twice a year. Maybe pretty soon we might get it even a third time, the way we used to get the Manning and Brady rivalry. But I think it's that big. I think both of them, they're both different. Like Mahomes is more flashy, he does different things, he does it well. And Herbert's the big arm, big quarterback that can take off running, but he can also chug it down 70 yards down the field. So it's incredible to, and their personalities are completely opposite too. So they're both obviously great human beings, but it's just going to be interesting to see the way these two develop. But yeah, no, it's definitely starting to become a rivalry now between both of them, just because, I mean, who does Herbert get to start his career against? He starts it against Patrick Mahomes last year. This year, they take it to him. So now it's one-on-one. Man, every time that these guys are going to face, I always put Roman numerals after it. So last year was Mahomes Herbert 1. This year was Mahomes Herbert 2. And then we're about to get Mahomes Herbert 3. So it's a lot of fun to watch both. I mean, when I'm in the stadium and I'm watching both of these two go at it, I'm like, wow, like, I honestly kind of feel privileged because I get to watch two incredible quarterbacks go at it. And I mean, their styles are so different, but they're so big. I mean, you see the cameras when both of them go and shake hands after the game, they're surrounded by a mountain of cameras just because everybody knows how big these guys are. But yeah, no, Justin hasn't shown any signs of regression. I know a lot of people love using that word. I know that guys like Dan Orlovsky have been on ESPN saying, oh, Justin Herbert is okay, but his poise isn't good or this isn't good. No, like Justin can do it all. I mean, he really, and if there's any area that he needs to work on, it's maybe letting the ball go a little bit sooner. And what I mean is sometimes he takes unnecessary sacks. There's times where he could just like, dude, you don't find anybody, just throw the ball away. And maybe that's something that he needs to work on. And the other thing I'd love to see him work on see him actually do is that Aaron Rodgers, like, hey, let's go up to the line real quick. Okay, let's get him on a 5-yard offsides because the guys are running in and out and stuff like that. That's something I'd like to see him improve on because I think it would help his game out a lot. Because there's times where I see Justin and the offense come up to the line and guys are running in and out from the defense, and I'm like, dude, you could just go up there, snap it real quick, and get you an extra 5 yards. Obviously, you can't put that much on his plate, but he's learning slowly but surely. But yeah, no, Joe Lombardi, offensive coordinator, he's been around some great quarterbacks. He worked with Drew Brees for years. And Drew even said, he told us before the season, this is the perfect offense for Justin Herbert to learn in. Now, the only thing is they were going intermediate for most of the season, so it was all passes of 15 yards or less. These last 2 weeks, they've been throwing it down the field a lot more. Against Cincinnati, they had three deep passes. One was 47, 44, and then the other one was 42. So you saw a lot more down the field. Last week against the Giants, sorry, Jake, you saw another down the field pass. So if the Chargers start opening it up a little bit more, it might help their offense be that lethal weapon that you want, especially with getting Keenan back this week. The focus isn't going to be Josh Palmer. It's not going to be Mike Williams. It's not going to be Jalen Guyton. It's going to be Keenan Allen. So this week might be the week to keep on throwing down the field, throw to Mike Williams. If you guys go and look up his stats, Mike Williams does very well against the Chiefs. A couple of years ago in 2018, he had 3 touchdowns against the Chiefs, and that's when Keenan Allen went down with an injury. That was that Thursday night game that they had. Keenan Allen goes down with an injury in the first quarter. Here comes Mike, scores 3 touchdowns. In Mexico City, he caught that long pass from Phillip Rivers to Mike likes playing the Chiefs, so watch out for 81 on Sunday. You guys were probably going to ask me a fantasy question, and there it is. There's your free nugget. Watch out for 81 on Thursday night.
Not
Are
just
the
fantasy,
Chargers
also
worried?
betting.
Are the Chargers worried that Mike Williams has slowed down though? The first 4 weeks were very fast. He came out looking like an actual alpha receiver, and then he seems to have tailed off a little bit in the last couple of weeks.
You know what? It's funny you mentioned that because we have asked the coaches, and it feels like when they get Mike involved in the offense, regardless if it's 80 yards, 70 yards, 60 yards, like as long as they get 60 or 70 yards or more, the Chargers end up winning the game. They need to get him involved. They need to get him involved early. With the Vikings, they didn't get him involved almost at all. Against the Broncos, he really wasn't involved. And it's peculiar that those are the game, and against the Patriots, they didn't get him involved as much. And those are games that they lost. So when they get him involved, that Cowboys game, I don't think he was involved all that much. So usually it's whenever they lose, he's not involved. So it's just that the way the defenses have schemed, a lot of defense like the Raiders, they try to take away both Mike and Keenan. They doubled both of them, and they said, let your other guys beat us. The other guys ended up beating us or beating them. But then you go against the Patriots. Patriots do the same thing, but nobody else stepped up. There was a pass where Jared Cook was just running. He goes up to Adrian Phillips, and then he doesn't even turn around. Justin throws him the pass. Adrian Phillips intercepts it and runs it back for a touchdown. And you're kind of like, Jared, why didn't you turn around? So it just they need Mike Williams. They need Mike Williams to if they get him involved early and often, that's when Mike Williams is his most dangerous. So I expect him to do it this week, especially because you're coming down to the end of the season. You're going to need him. 1, 2, he's going to need to show, hey, look, yeah, I might have fallen off for a little bit, but I'm worth that $15 to $20 million extension in the offseason, which I still don't know if the Chargers are gonna give him. I think he's shown flashes of him being worth it, but you need consistency. And I think that's what Mike's going to start trying to show these last few weeks. Because against Pittsburgh, he was involved. Cincinnati, he was involved. And against the Giants, he was involved. You need Mike Williams involved if you're going to win some of these games, especially towards the end of the season.
Yeah, I want to transition over to the other side of the ball on the defensive side. Obviously, the job that Staley did, especially at the Rams last year, he had this defensive guru tag, and the defense, they're 26th in points against, and stopping the run has been a big issue this year. And sort of pressure on the quarterback has been too. I know Joey Bosa has 8.5 sacks and 5 forced fumbles, and he continues to be a leader on that defense. But they've struggled to get sacks and pressures from elsewhere on that defensive line. I think the next best person only has 4 sacks for the year. And it's kind of since they've lost Melvin Ingram as well, it's become an issue. Coincidentally enough, he's now over with the Chiefs after taking a pit stop there in Pittsburgh for a couple of weeks. Is that something that's going to have to be addressed in the off season and in terms for the rest of this season? Is that something that could cost them when it comes to, fingers crossed that they do make the playoffs, when it comes to those playoff games, if they can't get pressure on the opposing quarterback?
The Chargers are doing different things to try and get pressure. They're bringing in Drew Tranquil. They're bringing Derwin and Nasir Adderley off the edges. They're bringing cornerbacks, and they're trying different ways to get the pressure. Uchenna Nwosu's kind of picked it up in the last few weeks. He's had a lot of pressures. He's only had 3 sacks, and 1 was a strip sack, but they're trying to generate more pressure from different areas, and I think they've gotten there. It's just that Mike Glennon, like last week, I was surprised that they didn't have more than 1 sack, but it was because Mike Glennon was getting the ball out quick because he knew the pressure was coming, and he's like, oh hell, he just would throw it, and he didn't. He lived to play another game. So I think that I really do think that the Chargers have done better with all that stuff as of late. They did it well against Cincinnati. They did it well. They even did it well against Denver. They got there a couple of times and they hit Teddy Bridgewater. So it's just a matter of putting it all together. And they do need other guys to step up. And that's kind of why you've seen Joey Bosa's, sack numbers go down a little bit. It's just because he doesn't have that other pass rusher on the other side. They're trying out Kenneth Murray as well as a pass rusher. It just hasn't really developed all that well. But Brandon Staley's trying to bring it home different ways. So I expect against the Chiefs to see different combinations of blitzes to try and get guys to get to the quarterback and maybe try different unique ways to try and do that. there was a couple of weeks ago, there was against the Steelers. At the end of the game, the reason why they were getting home is because they were doing Kyler Fackrell, Uchenna Nwosu, Joey Bosa, and Justin Jones as their front four. Those guys were at the end of the game, they were getting after Big Ben. The only reason why they can't do that anymore is because Kyler Fackrell had a procedure done on his knee, and he's going to be out for 3 weeks. But they need to find somebody else that can help out with that, because that is what probably their most lethal combination is, having all those guys on the field. Obviously they need more help. Jerry Tillery hasn't really been another guy who hasn't really been with the Chargers that hoped he'd be. I think right now in PFF he's ranked 113th out of 135 linemen, so defensive linemen. So he hasn't been what they had hoped. But there's other guys that have helped: Linval Joseph, Christian Covington, Justin Jones. Those guys have kind of gotten after the quarterback as well. So the Chargers just need to they've picked it up in the last few weeks, but you need to continue that, because I mean right now the Chiefs they're yes, they've played better, they're winning, but Patrick Mahomes is still turning the football over. So, or not even just Patrick, it's guys popping the ball up and everything. That their offense is still turning the ball over. So the Chargers need to make sure that they take advantage of that kind of stuff, and they get those fumbles, they get those interceptions. And I'm pretty sure the Chargers are going to try and take advantage of that this week against Kansas City.
Excellent. And I just want to ask actually about SoFi as a whole, the stadium, because it is their second season in there sharing with the Rams. And, you know, one thing that I've noticed that obviously there's a lot of more opposing fans there than you would see maybe at Rams games. It's maybe a similar situation they had when they were in the StubHub Center. You know, it's sort of struggling to get like home fans into the games. Yeah. Is that still stemming from the issues from moving from San Diego over, or is there sort of something that ownership is planning to do to get more Chargers fans in seats?
I think it really stems from, do you want to go in? Do you want to go to the stadium, or do you want to chill at home, kick your feet up, watch any game that you want? That's kind of the issue that the NFL has as a whole. And it's not that just the Chargers. A couple of weeks ago, the Raiders were playing Washington, and they had a stadium full of Washington football fans. The Rams have had it. The Rams will have it in a couple of weeks when they play the 49ers. It hasn't just been the Chargers. It's the funniest thing is that I feel like they show, like when it's the Chargers, they show the crowd. When it's other teams, they don't really show the crowd as much. And I'm not trying to be to be an apologist. I just think it's funny that when it's the Chargers, they try and show the whole stadium, and with other teams, they don't. The Chargers have actually done pretty well. I mean, this year with the Cowboys, I thought it would be 90-10 Cowboys, and it was probably about 65-35, which is actually pretty impressive. And then with the Raiders, the same thing. There was a lot of Charger fans there as well. I think it's the thing is that Southern California is a military kind of, both of them are military. LA and San Diego are both military. So I see a lot of San Diego fans. I still live in San Diego. So, and I just commute, come up, cover the team, go back down. And when I drive up for the games on Sundays, I see a lot of Charger fans on the road from San Diego coming up. Charger fans are just quiet about their love for the Chargers in San Diego, just because they don't want to get berated by some of the fans that just don't love them anymore. So it's pretty funny, but I just think it's you're in LA. You have the beach, you have the Lakers, you have the Dodgers, you have Shohei Ohtani with the Angels. You have a lot of different teams, and there's a lot of different things that you can do. So I feel like it is kind of a struggle, but if you have number 10 on your team, number 10 is going to start getting you season tickets. They're going to start getting you new fans. I think if number 10, let's just say if he can take them to the AFC Championship this year, there's going to be a lot of excitement around the city for the Chargers, just because of what Justin Herbert brings. I mean, the other day, I think it was on Sunday, with that throw that he had to Jalen Guyton, I think within 4 hours, that video had already been to 2 million views on Twitter. So that's pretty impressive that fans and that people around the world are watching Justin Herbert. They see Justin Herbert. And I feel like some people are starting to fall in love with Justin Herbert a little bit. So that as long as they have number 10, I think number 10 is going to sell a lot of tickets and get this city excited, especially if they, like I said, if they can make a run.
Fernando, just one last question before we let you go. If you get your crystal ball out for tonight, the game, give me a final score. Who wins? Who loses?
This is gonna be my pick. I think I had Chiefs 28, Chargers 23. I think that the Chiefs are kind of riding high, and then Rashawn Slater. If he doesn't play, that's a huge loss. And the problem is, I wish I could give you my pick 10 or an hour before the game starts when we get the active, who's active, who's not active, just because I could probably give you a better one. But with all the unknowns on both sides, I really don't know. I really don't know who's. This is really a toss-up game, but I think it is an important game. I think it is a game that the Chargers need, but I don't think they're going to get it just because of how the Chiefs are playing right now on defense, how the Chiefs are playing overall. It might be a tough call, especially on a short week with all the injuries that the Chargers have. It might be a tough get for them.
Well, after that you have Houston, so that's a nice easy one.
Yeah, they should be able to do some things there, but it's a shame that they're not going to be able to play against Tyrod Taylor because of the I think he was benched for David Mills, so it sucks that he's not gonna. Well, that he potentially might not be able to play against his old team.
Yeah,
I think he's still afraid of that doctor.
I have nothing to say. The only thing I can say about that is,
surprise, motherfucker! The king is back.
boom. Oh, my bad. First, I'm sorry. You can take that out. I'm so
It's
sorry.
okay. Don't worry about it. Don't worry
I'm telling you
about
guys,
it.
I like Becky Lynch and Conor McGregor. To me, are the two top. Like, I love those guys. So I love Irish people. Thank you guys so much for having me on. This was honestly awesome.
No problem. We are delighted to have you on the show, Fernando. It was great to speak to you. Before we do let you go, though, if anyone's interested, where can they find any of your work?
Oh, yeah. Twitter, Instagram at Real F Ramirez. Also, si.com/Chargers. You can find all my articles I was going to say for the week, but it's actually for the 3 days leading up to the game. So I'm definitely excited that obviously, again, thank you guys for having me on. This was awesome. Love talking football with you guys. If you guys ever need me again, I'm always open to jumping on with you guys. And again, I appreciate it.
Definitely. Well, we'll definitely be having you on the call again because we have to organize those points soon. So that's definitely going to happen. Definitely going to happen.
How does it feel having perfect hair? Like, your hair is actually on. I love the way it just stands. Like you just stands like that, and it's just stood there. Yeah, so
it takes a lot of work.
Yeah,
that's green screen right now.
Okay. Is that the Joker's hair then in the back?
That's it. That's Joker's hair in the back there. Look, my hand's going right through it there. Let's see.
Oh, there you go. But I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much. And if you guys are ever out in Los Angeles, you guys got to let me know. The way I'll let you guys know if I'm ever in Ireland again.
Most definitely we will, for sure. Once again, thank you so much, Fernando. We are going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we are going to be looking ahead to the game a little more. And you are welcome back to the Under Center podcast. Thanks so much to Fernando Ramirez from Sports Illustrated for talking to us about the LA Chargers side of Thursday night's game. But we're going to now focus on the Kansas City Chiefs, and we're delighted to welcome back from the Chiefs Focus First and 10 show. We have JP and Caleb. Lads, it's so great to speak to JP. We've spoken to you before, but Caleb, it's your first time on the show. We're delighted to have you both back on.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thank you for having us. Thanks, man. Nice
No.
being back.
No problem at all. And we are delighted to be talking to you again, JP. And I'm sure we'll have some great things to talk about with Chiefs now in the next couple of minutes. But yeah, let's look into Thursday's game. Of course, the Chiefs are going in off a 6-game winning run, where the story of that winning run has surprisingly not been the offense, but it's been the defense and how they've been able to stop teams. I think in the last 5 games, only one side has scored over 14 points in those 5 games.
Yeah. It's been a complete turnaround. We've, we talked about this on our show so many times that, our team is built differently. Spags is a different style DC. All of his defensive teams going back years have historically started slow. He has so many packages that it's hard for veterans to, you got to realize, we got rookies on our team as well, but it's hard for veterans to catch on. And it just takes time. Every year we start off very slow. This year was a little worse. But that wasn't all specifically due to just his packages. There were some other things that went on that we've talked about on our show that caused some other issues. But regardless, right now they're unstoppable. That defense is scary. They're ranked 6th in points allowed, or 6th or 7th, I believe, and top 10 defense. They're no joke. And it just took a little time for him to gel and a little time to catch on with Spags. He's the type of guy like Andy that will call you at 4 a.m. and say, "Hey, I got a new package and I want you guys to learn it." And he'll call him on a Wednesday and say, "We're going to try this out on Sunday." So it just takes time, and they'll use those packages during the year, and he'll try it over and over and over again until they get it right. And he'll position people in places until he either figures out they're going to work in those positions or they're going to move them to a position that they will work. But he believes in his guys, and that's the thing. Caleb, what do you got with this?
Yeah, I echo everything pretty much you just said. One thing, what we noticed with the defense is everyone, you guys probably saw more specifically, Sorensen was starting. Sorensen's a great guy. He can play. He's just not a starter in this offense. He's more of that third safety rover. One thing Spags loves to do is have 3 safeties. You got Tyrann Mathieu, Juan Thornhill, and you have Daniel Sorensen as that third rover. And that's what he's good at. He's not good as a starting role. But if you put him in that third rover and kind of let him move around, that's when he gets the big hits. That's when he gets the fumbles. That's when he gets the interceptions. So when you see moves like that happen where they finally switch that and put Thornhill in his spot, it makes the defense so much better.
Yeah,
Also,
you keep him in the middle. Yeah.
Yep. Also, the acquisition of Melvin Ingram was phenomenal by Veach. Seriously, that guy is a beast. He does not look the same player he was with the Chargers. He looks so much more dominant with our defense. It seems like every other play he's out there, he is destroying teams. I knew he was special whenever the first snap he took against the Cowboys on 3rd down, the 325 game. He literally caused a pressure, pushed the guy back into Dak Prescott, and he threw a incomplete pass. From that moment on, our defense has been pretty much kicking every team's behind. It doesn't matter if they're losing a quarterback or if they don't have anyone. You still got those players that can go out and play. And one thing that the Chiefs defense has that many people are not looking at is our cornerback room.
Yeah.
Brett Veach traded Parker Inger for Charvarius Ward. This was a guy who was going to get cut. He traded him for an undrafted guy. He also got L'Jarius Sneed in the 4th round. Was able to get Mike Hughes, who was a former 1st-round pick with the Vikings. Traded a 7th-round pick this offseason. He got DeAndre Baker after he was cut, and he went through some legal issues, and he was finally exonerated. And then not to mention Rashad Fenton, who's a 6th-round pick out of South Carolina. So the Chiefs have an excellent, and I mean excellent, cornerback room that is going to be phenomenal for years to come. So just combining everything we have together, this defense might be able to seriously make a huge run pushing in towards the playoffs, because right now they're pulling up 2000s Ravens-like defensive numbers, and that's something I haven't seen. They're better, honestly, than the 2015 Chiefs defense that was top 10.
They are.
Caleb, Caleb, I just wanted to ask you, you mentioned a player I wanted to talk a little bit about was Daniel Sorensen, and he kind of came into the season and it started off a little bit slow, and maybe he's just coming back. He got that interception a week or two ago, and maybe he's just coming back in. Do you attribute that to a change in the defensive styling or putting him in the right position to succeed? Or
I think it's putting him into the right position to succeed. I'm pretty sure JP would agree with me, because when you look at Dirty Dan is a great player. He has served this team well and has done so many great things. He just isn't a starting safety. A prime example, and I'll go back to the 2016 season. Derek Johnson, I don't know if you guys remember him for the Chiefs. He used to be a hard-hitting linebacker, and he tore his Achilles. They ended up putting Dirty Dan in his spot as a linebacker. He did not succeed. He is not a starter. He is one of those guys you put in a plays here and there and let him rove around. That's where he's really successful at. But Dirty Dan is a great player. Now, in the beginning of the season, yeah, people were mad at him, but I can't fault Dirty Dan. I can fault Spags and the defensive coaching staff, because they kept putting him in those positions. So an example of someone could maybe is you look at another team and say Josh Gordon, when he was with another team, they were putting him in a bad position. He wasn't being successful. We could argue the same thing was happening to Jamal Adams. He was really the only guy. He was not successful. When he got to Seattle Seahawks, he elevated his game. So when you look at that, players who get into the NFL like Dirty Dan are good, because when you look at the end of the day, a small percentage of players from Pee-wee to NFL actually make it. It's very small. I think it's like 5-6%.
It's 3%.
Well, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, 3%. Yeah. So that just shows you if you make it, you're good. The issue though is people think, okay, they're struggling. It could be the team fit, it could be the locker room culture, it could be the scheme. As JP said earlier, the scheme that we've seen with Spags is very difficult to comprehend sometimes. Teams struggle. And what we're looking at it from now is that they finally figured out. It takes about 8 weeks, and about the 7th, 8th week, they finally have turned it around.
And that's the biggest thing. People don't understand. Everybody thinks, and it's always funny from a fan standpoint, it's, well, God, how hard could it be to just go out and hit somebody? It's really not just going out and hit somebody. I think we talked on the last show about, and Caleb brought up the cornerbacks. The CB position is, in my opinion, the hardest position in football to play, especially now. I mean, you're playing a position that you're watching footwork. You're playing, you're watching 2 or 3 receivers. You're watching eyes. You're looking at the quarterback. And not only that, you're playing a second team with the refs. You've got, no matter how you look at it, that's what you're doing. You're playing against the refs because they are looking to throw a flag at you no matter what. And it's a very difficult position to play. And then when you have a defensive coordinator that is very, very scheme minded, we could go back to Sutton. The guy had 3 schemes. Our old defensive coordinator had 3 schemes. It was bend, don't break, keep him out of the end zone. If they scored 3 points, oh well. He put people in positions that honestly didn't belong there. I mean, he had Anthony Hitchens chasing Amari Cooper. He had, which was just downright stupid. I mean, I don't care who you are.
Justin Houston had to chase Antonio Brown in the AFC divisional game. I'm like,
what you're
going to tell me you're going to have him chase him? That just makes no sense from a scheme standpoint. Of course he's going to get burnt 56 yards down the field.
You got a 5'6" guy chasing a 4'3" guy. I mean, come on, man. I mean, that's just insane. You can't do something like that. It just – but with Daniel Sorensen, the thing with him is that you put him in a position, first down, in man coverage, you're not going to get anything out of him. He's going to get whiffed. It is what it is. He's not great in that position, especially in the red zone. He cost us a few touchdowns at the beginning of the year, but that wasn't because of him. He was put in the wrong position. You put him in the middle, and we talked about this prior to them actually doing it, but I got a lot of flack over this, but I said, you put him in that middle linebacker, not as a linebacker, as a safety behind the linebackers, but you put him in that middle position as a spy rover and let him do his thing where people can't see him because he kind of ducks low, and let him pop up out of nowhere. He's going to succeed. And what we've noticed is that when he's in the middle, he's hit caused numerous drop passes since he's been in that position, interceptions, ran one back for a touchdown. He's back in his element. You can't take a guy out of his element. That's what they did to Mahomes this year. They took him out of his element. You take a guy out of his element, you're gonna hamper his game. And that's what they kind of did. So this defense, honestly, this is not the same defense the Chargers played in week 3. And if they think it is, they're sadly mistaken. They are not coming into the same defense. They're not coming to the same team, in period. Mahomes is playing a different game. The offense has gelled a lot better. The offensive line is top 2, period. I mean, they're insanely good. You got a guy that should be rookie of the year in Creed Humphrey. I mean, but it's not going to happen, but he should be. I mean, the guy's in PFF numbers is higher than Mac Jones by 9 points. I mean, it's insane how this team has made a turnaround. We expected it to happen because they always have, and it is Mahomes. This guy doesn't give up, through all the adversity and all the headaches and all the things that have gone on with this team that a lot of people don't know about. He's made the change, and the rest of the team has made the change. And we talked about this last night on our show. People, they attribute every Super Bowl win to Tom Brady. Every single one of them. Every win is Tom Brady. The GOAT did it again. The GOAT did it again. Okay. His average game is 246 yards and 2.7 touchdowns over his career. So you're going to tell me that an average quarterback by numbers on paper is the reason why they went to 10 Super Bowls and won 7? No. But nobody else gets accolades for the wins and the Super Bowls. Mahomes gives, he's flat out said, our defense came through again. We're struggling. Defense came through again. We do the same thing. We see who's bringing the heat. We see who's bringing the wins. And right now, honestly, I mean, with the exception of Mahomes having his 2, 3, 4, and 5 touchdown games, he's had 2 5-touchdown games. I think he's had a 4-touchdown game this year. But really, it's been the defense the last 6 weeks that have just destroyed people, and they're loving it right now. So they're not going to let that stop. That's for sure. They hated all the trash talk they got at the beginning of the year. So for sure,
no, any team would be like that. I want to actually ask about a player that we spoke about on the show the last time you appeared, JP, and that was Nicole Hardman. It was a preseason chat, and we were going into the year. We were expecting big things from him this year. How have you felt he's performed? It seems as though drops and fumbles are still sort of an issue, and he's only gotten in for the 1 touchdown this year. Maybe his receptions aren't as high as he would like, but he seems to be used more in the zone sweep sort of game as well. But overall, how have you found his season so far?
Well, I'll say this, and then I'll let Caleb take over too, because I'm frustrated with the way that people have perceived him. McCole is a great wide receiver. People have to remember that they didn't replace Sammy until they put Josh in. And they still didn't replace him when they put Josh in, because they didn't utilize him up until really last week, and now he's got COVID. So this is not a football team that's ever had a true number 2 wide receiver. Okay. Sammy was not a number 2 wide receiver. We had 1A, 1B. We had Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and whoever else was out there. When you have another threat like a Sammy Watkins or even a Josh Gordon, once he's in his groove, which he can be, another threat like that. Got to remember the guys have played in almost 2 years. It opens up the field for everyone else. And they didn't replace. They thought his name's slipping my mind right now. He actually ended up on the practice squad. We drafted him.
Oh, Cornell Powell.
Cornell Powell. They thought he might be that guy to open up the field. It ended up working out as well. He didn't catch on as quickly. They didn't replace anybody they didn't replace Sammy. So they expected McCole to come in and just take over that role. It didn't happen as quickly as they expected, but they also didn't utilize him the way that he needed to be utilized. We're the same offense we were with the exception of Sammy Watkins, with the exception of that deep threat guy, that extra umph that opened up the field, that where you can't cover everybody type of situation. And when he has made his great catches this year, especially when they kind of pulled him out a little bit and let him regroup, he's come back in and he's done well. He's had a couple of drops. I don't think has he had a fumble this year? I don't
He's had a couple. That was during the rush stretch.
He's had two lost fumbles, and one of them he recovered himself.
Yeah, and were they on wide receiver side or were they on?
They were wide receiver side.
Wide receiver, I can't remember. Well, I think Travis had a few of those. Nobody ever talks about him. Tyreek's dropped multiple passes this year. Nobody ever talks about him. It's not just him. Everybody's had him this year. I mean, Tyreek had one go through his hands 2 weeks ago and ended up being an interception. So this is not, let's single out Nicole Hardman, because Tyreek's one of the most dominant wide receivers in the league, and he's had the same issue this year. We could go back and tell you exactly what's caused this, and then you can understand why it's happened. How many times have you ever seen Tyreek Hill fumble a ball or miss a pass or cause an interception or let one go through his hands? How many times have you really seen Travis Kelce do that prior to this year? Extremely rare, if ever. This year, they put Mahomes in a position that he is not accustomed to. The wide receivers weren't accustomed to that. They made him a pocket passer. They wanted him to learn pocket presence. They took away his ability to be vintage Mahomes. He was stuck in the pocket. He stayed in the pocket. No one can see him when he rolled out, and he's got a way of looking at a wide receiver, making a hand gesture, doing different things that they could see him and move to a position to get open, and they knew where to go. For the first 5-6 weeks of this season, he was getting clobbered. I mean, he got hit. Was it the Washington game, I think, Caleb? He got hit 12 times in the first half. 12 times. That wouldn't
surprise me.
And 2 sacks. And threw, I think, 2 interceptions. That's not Mahomes, but he was in the pocket that entire first half. Second half, he came out, and I know what he said at halftime in the locker room because a buddy of mine was in there. He lost his mind, and he came out. He started playing his vintage game and playing the way he plays the game. He didn't have that problem again, but then it reverted back, and it was almost a battle between him and another coach. And at the time, Andy wasn't calling plays. So when you take someone's ability away to do what they're best at, that makes them who they are, it takes the wide receivers out of their realm because that's what they were used to. Then you try to bring it back, and you have to figure out how to acclimate yourself to going backwards again. It's not as easy as riding a bike. You just don't pick it right back up again. And that's what's gone on. What do you think, Caleb? I mean,
I think you pretty much covered everything I was going to say, but for the one thing I would just add to what you didn't say is Nicole Hardman is not a true wide receiver. He's a gadget player, kind of how Tyreek was originally when he first came into the season. And what you see originally with Nicole Hardman in this instance is that he is going to be that guy that you can use, honestly, in the short running game. You can throw him on jet sweeps. You can throw it to him in the flat because everyone wants to do cover eye safety, so you can do 2 options. You can have CH or Dale Williams go in the flat, or you can have McCole go in the flat. McCole can also catch screens. He's fast. We saw him last week where he was able to go ahead and was able to move around the defense and get a big play. Probably one of the first big ones we've seen throughout the year. So when you're kind of looking at what happens with Nicole Hardman, he's not the traditional wide receiver everybody wants him to be. And as much as we want him to be this great player, our offense isn't set up like that. Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, 1A, 1B, and it's whoever is after that. So when you have the options like that, it's great. But people are expecting him just as a second-round pick to perform to these astronomical numbers, and sometimes that's just not going to happen due to everything that's in place. So when you look at the end of the day, I think McCole will be fine. I think they're starting to use him now in the way they want to use him. But coming forward in the future, I would not be surprised if they have some package and stuff. Now, the thing is, though, we need to see more execution because what we've seen in the past that he's been inconsistent. And that's been dating back to the last Super Bowl where he doesn't complete routes, he drops the ball, just different things like that. So they're still working with him. But I think putting into this second half of the season, pushing for the Super Bowl, I think he can be able to push through.
And he is a he's a third-year player. So, Tyreek wasn't the best wide receiver in his first and second year either. People have to remember that. He was fast. He'd get down the field. He didn't have the best route running ability. He didn't have those skills. There was a lot of things he didn't have his first and second year in the league, but he worked on them. His third year, he got better. His fourth year, he was phenomenal, and he just got better and better and better. So it just takes a little bit of time. It's not something that, as again, we've said this, they're in the league for a reason. They don't come in because somebody just decided, I like this guy, I'm going to bring him in. It's because they have ability. 3% of everybody that's played this game. And it's really all of sports. It's not just, I think Caleb hit it on the head. It's 6% of everybody that plays Major League Baseball or plays baseball, football, and basketball from the age of 5 through college make it to the combine.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to ask actually about the opposing quarterback a bit and your thoughts on that on Justin Herbert, because he's continued on his great form from his rookie year. Many people would have thought maybe he would have slowed down a little bit just because it's a second year, and that's how most players coming into the league how they progress, maybe a little regression, then progress more when they get a little used to it. But he's continued to excel, and especially the last couple of weeks he's been playing very, very well. And the fact that he's in the same division as Mahomes now as well, is this the rivalry that we could see now for the next 10 years? Our previous guest there, Fernando, likened it to the next Brady and Manning rivalry we're going to see.
I think it's possible. The way you're looking at it, the Chargers, they have obviously stepped up a couple notches. When it's come to their team looking a lot better, we've seen the past Phil Rippers. They would win one every once in a while, but they're kind of iffy. Now, the thing is, it's different this year. The Chargers took one from the Chiefs early in the season, but they did not bury us when they had the opportunity to. They lost the teams they should have beat. So when we're looking at the standpoint, it's going to be great because, the Chargers beat us, but the Chiefs turned the ball over on 3 straight possessions, 1 interception, 2 fumbles, 3 straight possessions. And we still only lost because we couldn't complete a Hail Mary touchdown. So that just shows you how dynamic our team is. Our defense is a lot better. But when it comes to it, Mahomes versus Herbert, at the end of the day, what we're seeing in this instance is that these are 2 great quarterbacks that are probably going to be battling for the division, because one of those 2 teams is going to win, because the gap, in my opinion, is that far away when it comes to the Raiders and the Broncos. And when you're looking at that standpoint, there might be another team out there that's going to probably challenge the Chiefs, like the Patriots. But from it comes to the division standpoint, it's probably going to be the Chiefs in charge for a while, because Justin Herbert's a stud. He is no joke, and he knows what he's doing. Anytime you see a guy throw a ball through the air 65 yards and get a touchdown, he's the real deal.
And he's very humble. And that's what is, you look at guys like Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield, they're very arrogant. I'm sorry, but they are. They're arrogant guys that have a different mindset. They think they're on top of the world, really. And he doesn't feel that way. He got thrown into a game against us that he didn't expect to have to play. His first year in the league, very early on, really in the year, actually. And he played extremely well. I have to say he had no idea what he was doing. He just went out there and winged it. And I have to say the kid has got mad skills. He's just going to continue to progress. Is he Mahomes? No. Will he be? Probably not. I mean, I would say that if Mahomes was on anybody else's team, including the Raiders, and I hate the Raiders more than any other team in football. But Mahomes has he's on a different level of everyone else in this game. If there's two players in this league that I would say are on a different level of everyone else, it's Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes. It's the two best quarterbacks in football. They have a different football IQ. And I don't know if anybody will ever rival that. I just don't. If somehow Denver ends up getting Aaron Rodgers, which I highly doubt, but I don't think he wants to play in the same division with Mahomes for the next 4 or 5 years. I just don't see him wanting to do that. But and if he does, it'd be a crazy rivalry. That would kind of put Justin Herbert on the third run of that whole realm of things, because that would change Denver's whole aspect of how they play football and where they would land.
What about Russ if they got Russ then?
I don't. Go ahead.
Nah, you go ahead.
I just don't. I have a friend who's a Broncos fan, and every single year, we're gonna get this quarterback, we're gonna get this quarterback, and I have to tell him, like, look, man, I understand, like, you're shooting for the moon, hoping to land somewhere, but if you're like a quarterback like Russ or Aaron Rodgers, there's no upside to come to the division, because only two teams, if there's two good teams, only those two good teams are going to make it. And our defense is so much stronger. I just don't see them coming to the AFC West. The only reason why I would see something happen if it was just Mahomes, I can understand being a second guy, but they probably want to go somewhere else where they could be the star. Yeah. I would not be surprised. It just makes no sense to me when I'm looking at it from a standpoint from them. They're trying to be successful. Yeah, the Broncos have the talent. They can't find the quarterback. So, I mean, maybe it can change for them. But yeah, or the head coach. But when it comes to the end of the day, I just don't see it happening. Now, if it does, it does. But I don't think it's really going to work out.
No, and I agree. I mean, Caleb said it. It would be very difficult to have 3 elite quarterbacks in one division out of 4 teams. Okay, I mean, most guys want to be that guy in their division. You know, I mean, it is what it is. You know, they wouldn't mind having the rivalry of having one more guy in their division that's good. You know, it just kind of is what it is. It's not like it's unheard of, but and it's happened. But I wouldn't see that happening in this division. And honestly, I don't know if anybody could afford him. I don't know that anyone would be able to afford either one of those guys. I don't think the Broncos could. I don't know what kind of cap space they have. Now, maybe next year they may be able to, with the cap increase. I just don't know. I mean, it would be highly, highly unlikely that either one of those teams would be able to afford either one of those guys and to be able to sign people around them to complement. Yeah. That's been Russell Wilson's issue for a very long time, is he's had no offensive line. He finally got DK Metcalf, but he's like the new Terrell Owens to a degree. I mean, he wants the ball every second. If he doesn't get it, he throws a baby fit. I mean, he could be triple covered and laying on his back. Why didn't you throw it to me? What the hell's wrong with you? It's like, come on, man. I mean, and this year Russell Wilson will be going somewhere. I think it's going to come down to either him or Carroll. Carroll's 70.
Yeah.
So you got to figure it. More than likely, if Russell decides to stay, Carroll's going to be gone. So it's
Well,
got to be the other.
it could be a scenario that they both go.
It could be. It very
Yeah,
well
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
And if a new guy comes in and he gives the okay to sort of blow it up and let Russ go and sort of start from the start, but then, like you're saying, you're coming into a year in an off season where Metcalf is going to be up for an extension, and if he sees Russ walk out the door, I don't think he's going to be quick to sign that extension, especially if there's question marks over who his quarterback is going to be.
Yeah. I don't know. Is this DK's in his?
This is his second year.
It's his
Second year.
third year.
This is his third year?
This is his third year, yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I thought this was his second. So it may be his third. So his extension would actually be his fourth season. At the end of the fourth season, it would be his extension year. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be weird. I mean, it's kind of like how Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. I mean, I don't see Devontae Adams staying in Green Bay when Aaron Rodgers leaves. I don't see that happening.
The way he's talked, though, I don't think he minds staying in Green Bay if he gets the money that he wants, but it won't be possible for him to get the money that he wants and then to continue to pay Rodgers as well. So,
well, Rodgers is not staying.
Well,
Rodgers,
no, and if it was the case that Rodgers was going to say, right, I'll stay.
Yeah,
I know it's not going to happen, but if he said, all right, I'll stay, then Adams would be impossible for him to sign because of the money that he wants. And we spoke about it, actually. We spoke about it with a Packers podcast there a while ago, and we said that to him, the money that Adams is looking for, which I believe quite rightly he deserves. I think he's one of, if not the best top wide receivers in the game at the moment. He would have to go to a team that has a quarterback on their rookie contract because of the money that they wouldn't be able to afford both. So that's kind of limiting his options a little bit.
Yeah, and so I don't know. A lot of people aren't factoring in the cap did go up a lot. And Aaron, if for some reason, which it's not going to happen, and no stretch of the imagination is he going to stay there. But if he were to stay and they were to work something out, I imagine he would probably restructure to some degree to keep Adams because that's his bread and butter. I mean, it really is. They've got a connection like Mahomes and Tyreek have, and Mahomes and Kelsey have. I don't think he would want to let him go. So, and he's had enough trouble in the past with not having players surrounded around him, as we've all noticed. He went through a 5-year stretch of not having anyone and then not having a defense either. So, I think he would try to figure out a way of keeping him around. And the cap, again, can move up from what they're saying it is right now, the projected numbers. So, you just never know. But I don't see Aaron Rodgers staying. I really don't. There's teams, and Russell, I even kind of threw out a scenario, and I can see it happening, is the Saints. I can see Russell Wilson going to the Saints. They need a quarterback. They really need a quarterback bad. Hill is not the answer. And there's just so many scenarios out there right now for these stars that are in their really prime, I guess, if you want to call it, that have a good 5 to 7 years left in their career that can come along and turn a franchise around in a minute, and that's Russell Wilson. I don't know if I could put him in the category of an Aaron Rodgers or a Mahomes. He's up there. He's definitely a top 10 quarterback for sure. Probably a top 5, but I don't know. It's going to be next year is going to be a very weird year. I think it's going to be a very strange year for the NFL, in my opinion.
Yeah, and circling sort of back then to Thursday's game, and we've seen that the Chris Jones and Josh Gordon were both put on the COVID list. There seems to be mini outbreaks going on with a lot of teams at the moment as well, including the Browns, who've gotten really bad there. I think 14 players was the last time I checked they put on the COVID list, and the Rams are struggling. 7 teams, I think, in total are sort of struggling with COVID, and there's talk about changing the protocol at the moment. But how big of a loss is Chris Jones going to be now for the game on Thursday?
Well, from what it looks like, and JP, we said this yesterday, but Chris Jones, he hasn't tested positive. He's just in the protocols. And the Chiefs' depth chart for the game just came out, And what's interesting about this is that L'Jarius Sneed's going to be out for personal reasons because his brother was killed. And he got to went back to see family and see how the situation is. So I understand he's not playing, but the kind of surprise is Willie Gay is on the COVID list. So he's tested positive for COVID. And I think what they're trying to do, at least in that situation, okay, we're going to keep these guys who have tested positive. We're also keep them away from the team and try to make sure they're okay. But when it comes in Chris Jones' situation, from what my understanding so far, what I just saw on Twitter is since he is in the protocols, he doesn't have it. So there's a good chance he's going to play. The issue, however, is everyone has considered the vaccine is going to be some sort of magical elixir. That's not the case. There's going to be different things that are going to happen. And it's a locker room. We've seen it before. We've seen the flu spread through locker rooms, no different from COVID's going to spread through. Yeah. It's going to spread through a locker room. So what the team's going to have to do in this situation, especially for the Chiefs, they're going to basically probably going to have to do virtual. This game's going to be interesting. The good thing, though, about this is that it's a Thursday night game, so we have about 10 days until our next game. So if there's going to be more tests that's going to come out, more players get COVID, that gives us some time. So that's good from the standpoint. The issue, though, is that the Chiefs cannot have this order mess up everything that's kind of going so far because we've seen teams literally get their seasons get derailed because of COVID. We saw the Titans and we saw the Steelers. So when we're looking forward, it's going to be interesting, especially like the information we just got literally about 10 minutes ago, and then also pushing in through now after this game. There might be some more cases. I don't really know. But from what I'm seeing, the standpoint is that it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen pushing forward to the future. Because
now, I haven't seen the update.
It just came out, JP.
So what happened? I didn't.
So Snead, he's not playing for personal reasons.
Well, I knew that, but he was supposed to come back, and I guess he decided.
I think they're keeping him away just in case. Because they're happy with Hughes, but Willie Gay is on the COVID list, so he tested positive. So
Willie Gay did?
Yeah. Well, he's on the COVID list. He didn't say protocol, so if he's on the list, that means he is.
He tested positive.
He's tested positive, but we got 10 days, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that hurts. Willie Gay is a huge player. He's been ever since he's been out on that field, he's been a catalyst. So that's going to be painful. As far as Chris Jones is concerned, Caleb is right. I mean, there was a big rumor going around yesterday, put out by people in Chiefs Kingdom, that Chris Jones had COVID, and so far it was a close contact situation, and he's got to pass 2 tests in a 24-hour period, and he'll be fine. As long as they come back positive. So far, he hasn't tested positive. Apparently, this all started with Josh Gordon, from what I understand. Now, I don't know if this stemmed directly from him or if it stemmed from, our prior game. I don't know. But I know that, we don't need to lose a lot of players. I know that being on a short week, usually COVID takes about 4 or 5 days before it starts to show, rear its ugly head, where you test positive or even feel the symptoms of it. So, for the most part, if you are vaccinated, it is a shorter term that you have COVID.
And the Chiefs are one of the most highly vaccinated teams in the league, so this probably won't be as bad, but we never know. Yeah,
you just don't know. I mean, it affects everybody differently. We talked about it last night on the show that, when you're, linemen and guys like that don't necessarily stay in perfect condition. They have to eat a little worse than others because just to keep the weight on, their immune system's a little lower. So they may, even with the vaccination, may catch it faster than a guy like Tyreek that is in humanly perfect condition and eats, really well all the time, and keeps his body in perfect shape. His immune system's really high and he may not catch it at all. And weirdly enough, knock on wood, I've never caught it. I've never gotten it. I did get vaccinated, but that was about the same time you did, Caleb. It was about 6 months ago or so, 7 months ago.
Yeah, about that, yeah.
Yeah, so, but I had never gotten it before that. So, and I was around people all the time. I mean, I wore a mask. I used so much hand sanitizer that I thought my hands were going to fall off. But I don't know. It's just weird how it affects people. So I hope,
Yeah.
and I hope it doesn't hamper the game too much, and I hope it doesn't. There's not a lot more. I mean, we got one day. So
One thing I would say about this team, though, they have a next man up attitude, mentality, and I think we'll be okay from that standpoint.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too. Willie Gay's a huge impact. I mean,
That
that's
is a
huge.
big loss right there.
That's a big loss. Chris Jones, I wasn't even as concerned with if we did lose him, just simply because of the fact that we do have two guys that can fill in that are very good, and our defensive line is so shored up with the addition of Melvin Ingram that, yes, I mean, without Chris Jones, you're gonna miss him, of course. There's no doubt. But I wasn't as concerned as if you lost a Willie Gay or somebody that was so isolated, I guess, that's an isolated player that does so much on the outside. And that one there, it hurts a little bit.
It does. It does. I think when it comes to the standpoint end of the day, I think what we'll see is the Chiefs somehow figure out a way. We got one of the best coaching staffs in the league, so I'm not worried. But this does hamper everything. But we got 10 days to figure it out after. So
Yeah.
Also, we've seen announced today that the NFL announced the international home market areas for 32 teams, and we've seen that the Chiefs have decided to set up in Germany, which is great for us European fans over here. Hopefully, getting another game in the future over in Germany to go, of course, with the London games. What do you think of this sort of new regime by the NFL to sort of increase knowledge? I think it's down in Brazil, Australia, I think Canada has a few now as well, and now we're seeing the UK and Germany too.
I think kind of from a standpoint, I mean, this is great for the sport. Obviously, it's never going to take away football, soccer, like it's on a world stage now. But I think the NFL is trying to get more people involved, and I think that's awesome to spread this game to the world. I mean, Americans love this game. As anytime you see football is on from literally August, and that's talking high school and college. So basically, like end of August all the way to February. So that's a good amount of time where we're seeing football, and for them to spread the game to the rest of the world, I think it's phenomenal because a lot of people like football. And as JP and I said, we have a lot of fans that follow our page, listen to our podcast from throughout the world. A lot in, we have a couple in Ireland, we have some in Great Britain, and we also have some, I think, in some people from China and throughout the other places visit.
We have them in India, we have them in Sweden, we have
so they're everywhere,
all over the place. That listen to our podcast, so it's crazy, and actually follow us on our website. So it's insane. It's great. I think it's great. I think it's going to take a while before it actually kicks in with COVID. I mean, I think it's going to take a while until everybody. I don't know how. I haven't really paid attention to how every country's handled COVID, other than a few. But until everybody is on board with getting vaccinated and just taking this under, getting it under control, and we're just as guilty. I mean, there's states in this country that refuse to get it done. Missouri being one of them. They're one of the lowest vaccinated states in the country. So until we actually get this under control, it's going to be a while, man.
Yeah, they may not do some for a bit, but that's the hope. I mean, I would love to go to a game over in Germany. That'd be nice.
That'd be awesome. I mean, that would be a great thing. It'd be very cool to do. I've never, weirdly enough, I played baseball and I've done a lot of different things in my life, but I've never been out of the country. So I've never left this country.
First stop is not Germany. It's over here to Ireland. We get you some proper drinks and give you a proper tour around for sure.
That's actually, weirdly enough, that would probably be, it would be either be Italy or Ireland would be the two places I would go, because my mother was half Irish and half Italian, and my father was born in Sicily. So that would have to be my places to go before I would go anywhere else.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Definitely cannot go anywhere else. You'd have to be. You'd have to go there. Your mother would never forgive you if you didn't go to one of those places first. Never. But guys, we're gonna wrap up the show here now. But before we go, I just want to get your predictions for the game on Thursday. Who's going to come out on top?
You want me to go or you want to go?
Go ahead.
All right. Well, I had a prediction on our last show of 31. I want to say it was 31-17 No, 31-13 Chiefs.
Okay.
I did say that I wouldn't be surprised if they held them under 10. I'm a little nervous with the fact that we are missing Willie Gay now, and I want to see what happens with Chris Jones. But I'm still going to say Chiefs come out on top. I'm going to give it a little bit more of a point spread now. I'm going to say 31-21.
I think when it comes to it now, the issues with COVID, I think that's going to be, I'm going to say it's going to be like maybe a 24-21 Chiefs. I don't know if the defense can hold, that's going to be awesome, but we're missing some key players. So it's going to be interesting from that standpoint. But I believe in Tyrann Mathieu. Just hope this team can get through it because this is going to be a tough game. It's not easy when you're towards the end, and this is where we're at.
Yeah. I mean, I know our defense is strong, and I know how they want to keep that position they're at. But you can't control what you can't. You can only control what you can control. Yeah. And when you're missing some of your key players, and you do have some great, we have depth, and that's something we've been missing for a long time. We didn't have depth, and that was the one thing that Veach and Andy wanted to go after, was having that next man up that can fill shoes, and we've got that.
We do.
That's been phenomenal. When Anthony Hitchens went down, Nick Bolton stepped up, and he played. Honestly, if he was still playing, I'd put him up as defensive rookie of the year in that category, because he was
he'll step up in the absence of Gay, so this will be interesting.
Yeah, definitely will.
And you got Darnell Daniel too.
Yeah,
he may finally get a shot. So.
Yeah, and you got Armani Watts that can step in, and which he stepped in last week at the end of the game and played really well. So we've got guys out there that can come in and do their job and do it very well. So I'm going to give it a little bit more of a closer game, but I still see the Chiefs coming out on top. So
excellent stuff.
They play better on the road.
Yeah,
that's true.
So.
Guys, it's been great speaking to you. JP, it's been great speaking to you again, Caleb. It's been great having you on the show for the first time. Hopefully, it's not the last time you drop in and speak to us.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, we'll come back on again.
And you come on ours, man.
Anytime at all. Before we do let you go, if anyone is interested and they haven't actually listened to the podcast yet, where can they find yours?
It's at Chiefs Focus First and 10 show on all 100,000 podcast places. JP has put it out constantly, so you can find it pretty much anywhere.
Yeah, we're from Amazon Music to iHeartRadio to Google Play to everywhere. We're everywhere. So, and we base it off Spreaker.com, but you can find it on our website, www.chiefs.com or chiefsfocus.com. You can find us on Twitter at Chiefs Focus. We're everywhere. So we're spread out all over the place. So if you type in Chiefs Focus on Google, you can find our podcast everywhere. So
excellent stuff. Guys, like I said, it's been great having you on. We hope you enjoy the game on Thursday night. Hopefully for your sake, a Chiefs win. Hopefully for my sake, I'm thinking about betting the over. So hopefully I'll get the over. I think the over is like 51 at the moment, so I think I'll go for that.
I wouldn't be surprised. It might go up now, so you never know.
It might go up. You never know. I mean, that'd be crazy if it did, but wow.
Excellent stuff. So that's where we're going to wrap up this edition of the show. If you haven't already, make sure you're following us on our own social channels at UnderCenterPod on Instagram and Twitter, and that's where you can take part in our competition. With thanks to Horward Estates, you have the opportunity to win the NFL jersey of your choice. Make sure you get your entries in before Wednesday next week. Follow us on YouTube as well, or if you want to get the audio side of the podcast, just search Under Center Podcast on both those platforms. You'll find us there. Subscribe, listen into all the shows. We have 2 a week and be kept up to date with that. But that is, like I said, all the time we have for. If you're staying up to watch the game, we hope you enjoy it. If not, enjoy the highlights the next day, but stay safe, and we will